Hi, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon to all of our six time zones. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about Microsoft Copilot, practical AI for everyday business. Now, for those of you that have joined us in the past, this one's going to be a little different than just the education that we typically do. We're going to do some live demos. And so, what we're going to feature today is a little bit of an intro, but we're also going to step out of the PowerPoint and go to a couple of examples that we've pre-laid out in how Copilot works. So this is a big topic, and it's a lot of confusion around how these are supposed to work, what they can mean in my small business. So Larry and I are going to be demoing that for you today, and we're really excited to have you here. And like I said, at the very end, if you have any questions or you want to go into more specifics, just grab our emails. We can communicate with you about anything after the presentation. Let me just get control back here. For those that don't know, my name is Darren Marr. I'm the Director of Client Solutions at NPC DataGuard. Just over 15 years of service here with a focus heavily on technology, cybersecurity in the small and medium space, understanding technology, the solutions, and how that translates into these small businesses. So that is the lens you're going to see here as we talk about Copilot. And ahead of schedule, before I asked Mr. Larry Keating, the president and founder of NPC DataGuard, who is my co-host, who will be going through and doing these demos. We'll be going together. Many more years of experience in the business, and whose job it is, along with mine, to uncomplicate the complicated. And boy, did we have our work set out for this one. Not only the Zoom and getting out and doing demos, but this is a very tricky topic. This product, this stream of products, it's ever evolving and changing. So trying to capture that into a moment for a 1 hour presentation where there's some value left over, even as things change, was quite difficult, I think.
It was a lot. There's no question of that. It's evolving more rapidly than virtually any other technology I've seen come to market in all my experience. So
Hmm.
it presents both a challenge and an opportunity. If you can keep up with it, you get the competitive advantage. And that's what we're here for today.
Yeah, and I think we've done a pretty good job with that, but we'll find out in the survey. So
Very
let's
good.
uh, let's go on to first of all, we never fly through without thanking our partners. These are the companies that understand the value of the education, the challenge with cybersecurity in these small, medium space, especially in regulated industries. So all of these folks here have been instrumental in helping communicate that message, getting their folks connected with us to learn more about the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about today. So thank you to all our partners. I know we have some reps on today. Again, thank you everyone, and hopefully we'll keep this up going throughout the
And,
year.
and I should add too that a lot of them have programs with us. Virtually every one of them have a program with us. So if
Yes,
you're
that's
interested in
correct.
any of what we do, they've arranged for you to get a better deal than average, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And again, we'll leave that contact in there at the end. So before we get to the demos, just because we have a big audience here, and we did talk about AI a couple months back, and that was more of a high level, we're going to go through a bit of a Copilot intro again, just enough to give some context to the demos. We'll talk about the licensing and the access overview. That can be complicated as well. And again, we try to keep it at the macro level so the understanding applies even as changes come down. Then we're going to do the demos. We're going to jump out. We're going to show you how it works in a couple of different applications, building an agent, and then we've got that Q&A. Like I said, if we can squeeze that into while we're doing the running prompts in these apps, or as people ask questions on the slides, we'll try to get to those. But we'll have time at the Q&A at the end, and again, we can always chat individually afterwards. What is Microsoft Copilot? Um, Not assuming that everyone here has had experience with AI, chatbots, and GPTs. Um, it's an artificial intelligence engine. Copilot actually incorporates other tools like ChatGPT, like Claude, the internet, your data into its responses. So it is a very powerful assistant in doing what we're going to show you here that can be accessed in many different areas. It combines many things aside from other engines, AI, your 365 programs, your own data, this natural language speaking just like this to an agent, and then again, the internet. getting information from the World Wide Web to include in those responses. And so it works very powerfully, as you're going to find out when it's set up correctly, which is a job unto itself, to give you the best possible answer based on the prompt or the question that you're giving it. And it finds these different areas to improve those answers: the web, your local data, your work information, and there's varying levels of all that depending on the level of Copilot you get. But it's an incredibly powerful tool when it's set up correctly. I think, Larry, my analogy applies here, where when you're looking at the labor of getting it to the place where we're going to show the interface, it's like 80-90% preparation, a lot of work, making sure everything's done correctly and ongoing, and then like 10% of it is the fun stuff that we get to do at the end.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I don't know if I completely agree with your percentages, but one of the things I found with it, as I've researched this and to help the team understand how we're going to deploy it for our clients is, it's kind of a contradiction. LLMs are so easy to approach and so easy to type a prompt into, but if you want two things that are better: control over the data, making sure people in your organization are using it in a way that the permissions are respected from both data access and the data delivery from the output from these engines. And secondly, does the interaction with it, is it secure in what you're doing with it and the prompts you're entering into it? So configuring it properly for the governance issues that typically um, you don't get when you're dealing in LLMs outside of the Microsoft environment. That's the second big thing that you get with this, is that integration. And once you set it up, which Darren alluded to, and he is correct, it's a significant amount to get the setup right, so that those controls are in place, the outputs are going to the right people in the right way, and the data that it's accessing is correct. It's more than worth the investment in time. Um, it's not something I'm going to recommend people should be doing on their own. I know that seems very self-serving, but as Microsoft have evolved the product, and as we've begun to understand where it reaches into, grounding, you can see that word on this screen, is very important as we move forward with LLMs. Grounding basically means, where is it getting its data from? What are the responses grounded in? And with a technical term called RAG, and it's an ability for an LLM to go out to the internet or to go into your data and augment the responses more than what it was just originally given as tokens. That opens up a whole world of obviously great opportunity to make sure the answers are more accurate. There's fewer hallucinations, but more importantly, it's a more powerful answer and a better answer for you. So we're not going to get technical here. We're going to jump right into the live demonstrations in a few minutes, but I think it's important to understand that little bit of background.
Yeah, no, that's definitely critical, because we're going to see, once I get control back here, what the difference is between the different levels of Copilot and what it can see. So again, we were kind of alluding to this. You can get out to a chat GPT on a browser, something similar, and just use it in its own space, in its own instance, and have your own individual chat, like talking to somebody in your office that maybe doesn't work with or for you. Just you're having a conversation. Your data is confined to just general internet. It's limited to what it knows based on the conversation you're having back and forth. It's not looking into your business data. It's not looking into history per se that you built, but you're kind of in a funnel. When you get into Copilot, now, again, we're talking about pulling from different engines. We're talking about using information from the web, from your history, from the business data. And now we're getting into results, details that save a lot of time with very, very powerful answers. And there's an element of, unrelated to technology, evolution in use, where your usage of it will get easier, smoother. The responses will come faster. They'll become more qualified over time as it integrates more into your business and understands your prompts and the nature of your role. One of the interesting things that I've been using a personal version of ChatGPT, and when I went to look at the memory, because I have it memory on, so if I say always put a capital on the word advisor, That's just something I don't want to have to keep correcting. It used to keep those kind of memory functions as a bullet list, like he said, do this, 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 and this. It's morphed that now into a bit of a story. If you look at your memory in ChatGPT, it kind of reads back as like a little paragraph write up, who you are, where you work, the kind of nature of the work that we do inside. And it was really interesting to read it as a sentence back to me, my interactions that I've been having with it over the last year. And it's nailed it. I'm at a point now where I can lob a question over and I don't have to give it too much information to get the kind of answer that I want. Or if I have other factors in my responses, it just kind of comes back naturally. So that happens over time the more you use it, and it just becomes more powerful. So we're going to show how that works and what that looks like. But it's got a real impact on time savings, which it all comes back to the bottom line in the end. But you're going to see here in minutes what could take days, and we're going to show it live. I think that's the most impressive feature here.
Yeah, and where Microsoft has all the advantage here, which is really interesting, is the integration right into the tools we use every day. Now, of course, if you're using Google tools, this is not going to be as valuable for you. But uh, it really is amazing all the places that you can access the AI from and how it centralizes your activity. We're going to show you actually a chart around that. And when it centralizes that activity, when you're coming in from different angles, working in these applications, it just is almost seamless. I went into it the other day into my Teams, where we just have this casual conversation going back and forth on work issues. And I said, tell me everything I've talked about in the last 6 months on this subject and what action items haven't been followed up. Boom. It just goes through all the chat. It even reached out and looked at calendar dates and listed follow-up meetings to those issues. So that integration into Microsoft's products is all the advantage. And I want to restate something that Darren said, that this isn't just Microsoft's LLM engine. You can activate other engines.
Hmm.
Copilot acts as a kind of a router. An AI router is a tool, a web place you can go to, and it will intelligently route your question or your request to what it thinks is the best LLM to answer that. And that is built into Copilot. Like what you're going to be seeing today is Claude working, is OpenAI working, so it can be a combination. So it doesn't look like Microsoft's in the direction of, just purely in their LLM.
Right.
And I think that is powerful that you're going to get that routing capability inside of Copilot. Now,
What
go ahead, Darren. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say what it kind of what you're describing, filling in those gaps where it knows to go to give you your answers. It's almost like an artificial intuition. You don't have to say, go to my calendar, check here, here, here. It just knows, well, if he wants to know if there's been follow-ups, here's where I should go and check to figure out what the best answer is for him, which
Yeah, well,
comes over
in
time.
fact, I'm having that's turning into a little bit of a problem for me because now I'm asking it to do things and it's giving me such a full response. Stuff that, I just want my answer here on this particular question. I'm making sure now I specify that. Okay, limit it to just this answer. Don't give me anything superfluous. And it's good
Totally.
at it. It's
Yeah.
learning. So, but the really big thing too is, and I can't emphasize this enough, most of you folks know the business we're in. Our concern is always with the protection of your business, the protection of data. And what I like about Copilot is when you turn it on and use it properly, it's inside of that envelope of security that Microsoft creates. And we all have to now admit they've done a pretty darn good job. Microsoft security, multi-factor authentication on your Exchange, on your SharePoint, it works. They just in Canada alone, they have, I'm going to say tens of thousands. I know I'm off by orders of magnitude of number of attacks on their servers every day that they repel successfully. And, even the smallest companies now are seeing large volumes of bot attacks. And being inside of an organization and inside of their security envelope with this, that they've got literally thousands of professionals, even in Canada, just working on protecting the data. That's what's attracting me to this. I will trade off some flexibility and performance for this level of security. I know there's always going to be a next big powerful release of an engine by somebody. And but what I like about this is, and you can see here is it stays inside the security envelope.
We've
Now,
been talking about 365 since like 2018, and security, the deployment of that, SharePoint data, all the stuff we've talked about before. If you're already, this is exactly one of those synergies that I like specifically in this case. We're already doing all of that. So if I drop in Copilot, while there's a bit more work to do, you're getting, like you said, the advantage of all of that security that you should already be doing properly. You don't have to redo any of that versus bringing in a new tool or a third-party application.
yeah, exactly. Now, Darren, what are we going to talk about specifically today?
So you've got a couple of this icon right here in the middle. I'm 99% sure we're all on Windows devices. We've all seen it. We all have it somewhere in our browser, in our Microsoft applications. It doesn't mean we've got, and if you click on it, you get a little sidebar pop up. But what the capabilities are and what that icon means based on your level is completely determined by the license you have. So here is kind of a high level layout. We're not including pricing because that's changing and fluctuating. It all depends on what level you're going in at. But at a high level, you've got the free on the far left here. And what that is like going to chat, if you didn't have any membership anywhere and you went to the chat GPT site and you just started talking, it's just you and this thing with no context. That's what we have here. It's free, it's basic, it's not going to give you the features, but we all have that button. So not to be confused with the same button for all the other levels, this is the free version. We're not going to cover that one today because that one doesn't have anything that's really exciting to talk about. So we're not going to cover that. That's the free version. When you step up into a 365 business suite, you've got business and you've got enterprise. In the business suite, there's about 4 different levels in there. You've got this version, premium personal. Now, same as the free version, it's this chat. You've got a little bit more feature. You've got some memory functionality. You've got some pay as you go features, but it's also, quote, free in the price of a license in the business suite. So a slightly elevated version of the free. We're not going to talk about that one either. This one, again, is not going to have all the features that we're going to show. Then when you jump into the paid version of Copilot, over and above the paid version of your business or enterprise license, now we've hit the jackpot. Now we've got all the features that we're going to show you. We've got the agents, we've got the app inside of the tool, that Copilot inside of the applications. We've got grounded data, and then when you jump into enterprise, you're getting a lot of backend stuff for the security IT team, less on the feature stuff on the front end. You're going to get most of that when you go into business. So we're going to focus on 365 Copilot Business. This is a paid Copilot license that you pay for in addition to your business premium or business standard license, which comes with all these features. That's going to be our primary bucket here. And inside of that paid Copilot, yet again, we have levels. So it's kind of the same thing where we've got levels of free and chat. The big distinguisher for the first set of demonstrations we're going to show is grounded in data. This is a Copilot that does not see your work information. So your results will be limited to just what you're talking about. Get rid of those. Great to have from a very basic standpoint, but what we want for the most effective, use of our time and the application is grounded in business data. Now we're talking about 365 Copilot for Business right here on that in that third tier that's circled.
Yeah, so you know, this is where it can be really confusing is in the licensing. And you're going to see Copilot everywhere. There isn't right now a Microsoft product you can't turn on or use and you don't see the Copilot, opportunity. But what does it do for you? Can you get away with an unpaid version? You get chat, you can build some agents. They're limited capability. You can pay as you go in your tenant for that. But for me, if I'm going to use, integrated AI capability in my business, I want, access to grounded data.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me to try to build reports by uploading documents. And I want it to search through all of my documents and find all the relevant data and produce it for me. But make no mistake, you can get by and you can do some of what we're going to show you here with tier two, a little bit in tier one. But really, where the action happens is tier three and tier four. That's really for the larger enterprises. That's when you get really it's restricted to just advanced discovery compliance features that organizations like that may require. You may
Yeah.
require it. We have a client, there are approximately 20 people in the company. They do a very, very sophisticated thing in financial services. They require a very high level of data loss prevention, DLP. They require a discovery tool to meet their compliance requirements. So they are into the higher levels. They don't have to get to the level of Studio, which is the agent builder for Copilot that they get to do all of what we're going to talk about here today, but it's included in the very highest level, something like E7. So it is very complicated. I know this is another shameless pitch, but let us help you through it or get an organization you know that's well skilled in it helping you through because picking the proper licensing set is the most economical, but you want to not run out of steam in power and in capability because nothing is going to enable your business in the next few years more than a solid grounding in AI. So, Darren, are you watching the questions?
Yeah, we've got some.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to save them though for the next
Yeah,
few slides.
because we got these demos to get to.
Yeah.
So, what can be confusing and what we've laid out in this chart, I hope kind of congeals the notion for you that once you get that paid version set up, one of the big benefits is that everywhere you access Copilot from, whether it's the desktop app, from inside of one of the applications, like we will show you your browsers, whatever, um, you're working on your version and it's intelligent, just the way Darren described, that it's been learning his preferences and it's grounded in the data that he uses and the company uses. So that's really, really powerful. I think that's something that you want to make sure as you consider how are we putting this to work? Are we making sure that all the ingresses to use Copilot are inside of our envelope of security, inside of our envelope of control? And just a pointer to make sure that you do that.
Yep.
Good.
Okay. So, should we get to the fun stuff?
Yeah. So we are really, really brave because we're going to do live demonstrations here. We're going to get out of PowerPoint. I don't know, Darren, if we ever been out of PowerPoint in the
Nope.
many, many webinars we've ever
I
done.
said it at the top. This is our first time. I can make assure everybody that we ran through this many times yesterday to make sure we knew what we were doing,
And of
and
course, the video glitch.
it went off great. But this is a live demo, so there can be
Yeah. So
problems.
here we
And
go.
this is something that you can experience running a prompt through one of the applications. So
Yeah.
it's all legitimate.
And I apologize if it looks a little rough because there's no way to do this that it doesn't look a wee bit rough. So let me show you something here. First thing we're going to do, and by the way, it's going to take a few minutes for two of the tasks we've given it that we're going to demonstrate here are, you know, they could be a couple hours of work for you. And it's going to take 2, 3 minutes for the LLM to accomplish the goal. So what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to ask Copilot to add a slide to this presentation that something will say I missed. I want a new slide uh, in the presentation with data that gives me the 5 best reasons I should be using. What are the 5 best reasons to have Copilot, and why it's integrated into the Microsoft application? Boy, I'm not saying that right, but I think you get me. So I'm going to copy the prompt here. I've launched my Copilot. You notice that it was in the lower right corner, and I could just easily launch it from within the application. I'm going to paste it in here so you can't see my chicken plucking key typing. And I'm going to ask it, can you add a new slide after slide 15 that shows the 5 best reasons having Copilot integrated into my Microsoft applications is better? Format it the same as slide 9. So now this is
So
going to take a
this
couple
is
minutes.
this is this is the live deck that we were just in. It's not another deck. It's the same PowerPoint deck. We're on the Business Premium suite. So it's the same SharePoint that you would get in Business Premium. However, we do have a paid version of Copilot. And if he forgot to add a slide and he was adding it quickly before the presentation, this is exactly what you would do.
Yeah. Now, what's amazing about it is this is not only grounded in our data at NPC, but it can also reach out to the web and it can survey everything from Reddit to wherever, to find those five best reasons. So it's doing my homework for me. If I were creating this slide on my own, what would I do? Well, typically, I'd think about it myself, knowing technology like I do, and I'd scratch out my ideas first so they weren't lost in the melee of research. And then I'd go to Google and I'd start hunting around. And man, how many hours have you spent doing that? Where you're out, searching websites and doing the best you can to try to determine what is the best information. One of the things we're noticing that is happening, when LLMs are properly configured and they're, foundation models by these large providers, I'm talking Claude and OpenAI and Google's product, Gemini, they're really kind of sort of becoming truth engines. When they go out and look for data, they compare it to other data and they look for commonality, they look for frequency, and they've kind of started to determine, yeah, what I'm seeing on this site is probably right. What I'm seeing over there, I don't think that's right. I'm going to not use that again. It really is quite astounding. Now, where are we here? Um,
It's done.
Bingo. That is a brand new slide that was just created by Copilot. And it says because Copilot is built into the Microsoft apps, your team already uses, it delivers value that standalone AI tools cannot match. Gives me some reasons. It's in the right format. I don't have to touch this slide. I may, but I think it's done a fine job. You work in your daily apps. It's grounded in your content. It's enterprise grade security wrapped around it. One license to many uses. Really cool. What do you think, Darren?
Two things. Number one, the speed that was done at is not just the engine itself, the AI. It can sometimes be attributed to your internet connectivity and the actual pipe of internet coming down and up. That can have an impact, and your physical computer. We're seeing this now in the supply chain with prices going up and data centers being built and silicon disappearing. The power of your physical computer, laptop, desktop, that can have an impact on this too. So it's not just, is the agent not right? Did I not ask the question correctly? Is PowerPoint weird? There are some other factors that can affect the speed that you just saw Larry pull that down from. Um, and the other thing, and this applies to all of our prompts, there's got to be you have to have an idea. There's got to be a touch of truth inside of the answer that you're looking for that you already know, right? This slide, we can go into the resources. Where did you pull this from? Let me look into it. When I read it, I have to already have an idea that, yeah, this is about what I was looking for. It's close to the answer. Maybe I can refine from here. It's done the base work. I got the format laid out. Maybe I want to refine a few things. But if you're looking at this slide and you are 100% clueless, you can't present it forward. All of our prompts, you're going to have some kernel of truth in there that you're looking for. So you know when you're looking at a well done work and then refine, refine, refine. So in this case, we have an idea of what these reasons might be. If any one of these was wild or wacky, we would know. It would stand out to us. And if there was something that like that sounds good, but they've got some statistics in there, I want to double check that. You can do that manually and through the AI. So just some things to be aware of in the final product when you're processing and when you're reading what it's done for you here.
Yeah, yeah. And some of these questions we're starting to get, Darren, are really, really relevant.
Mhm.
Um, Anonymous is asked, why does it store information on their servers when a question is asked by the user? Um, you know, that's just a huge issue in Canada right now. Data sovereignty. Shameless brag here. I spoke a few weeks ago at the National Cybersecurity Consortium in Montreal on issues of AI and data sovereignty and how we have to be careful of key issues around that, what we can do to make sure we're data sovereign. But all in the configuration, okay, of the Microsoft suite that you're doing. Basically, inside of your SharePoint, which is likely cloud-based. I doubt many companies here are using their own instance of SharePoint in their own office. If you are, you're using a more dated methodology than putting it into their cloud version. But you've got an entire wrapper around that, okay? And I wouldn't worry about, is it on my endpoint computer or is it up in that instance? When this is done right, it's in your SharePoint, which is your separated area inside of Microsoft within which you can work. So I think that's really important, but that's a whole hour. And what we do is try to figure that out and make sure it's absolutely maximized. 18 years ago, when I founded NPC, I went and fought tooth and nail with a major provider to make sure that every time my client's backup ran, the data stayed in Canada. It was not replicated or backed up anywhere else in the world. And so we were onto that data sovereignty thing a very long time ago. It's part of what we do here now. Darren, you going to jump
You're
there?
right. Yeah, that was a shameless plug. A few of
Oh,
them in
oh,
there.
okay, good. So, um,
But yes,
so now we've got a new slide. By the way, I've literally gone into Copilot and said, I have a presentation to give on this subject. Access all of my PowerPoints, and I got more than you want to think about. Access my notes, access, everything you can, and build me a 10-slide deck on that presentation. Now, then I grab my coffee and I go away because that one's going to take longer than 2 or 3 minutes. But holy smokes, what comes back? You know the problem of starting with a clean sheet of paper.
yeah.
Yeah, and how much better is it when you have something to start with? Well,
Oh,
that's what
this
this
is
can do for you, integrated
most of
into
it.
your tools. It is most
Yeah,
of it, isn't it,
most
Darren?
of it is just get me started and then let me get to work on the refining part of it.
This was a CSV file that I just saved as an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Now I've kind of hidden the names here a little bit because this is live data. And, we go into this raw data that we get all the time, and we got a lot of work to do on it, to massage it, to make it a report, to, graph the data, do something. First thing I want to do here is I'm going to anonymize the data. Let me go back to the spreadsheet. As you can see in the lower right corner here, here's my Copilot um, sitting there waiting. And I'm going to go plug my prompt in, and I'm going to ask it to replace the first and last names with Oscar winners, avoid duplicate first names, change the handle, that's the first part of an email address, uh, on their email address to their first name and the domain to NPC data guard. Now, this is actually a complex task. I don't know if you've ever had to anonymize data, but it can be a real pain, making sure it's truly anonymized. And two things it had done for me when I was doing some testing. It had found the data was done incorrectly, that it corrected the data for me by saying, well, not everybody put their first name in the first name box. So I'll fix that. And a date code came over wrong from the survey tool into the CSV file. So all the date codes were wrong. AI just jumped in and fixed all that for me. But
Well,
now,
yeah, I was gonna say because you were talking too long. So people had to watch while that was happening. Because we're working in a live document, it's not going to create a second document and start working. We're just in the same document that you originally opened up. You asked the question and it just flashed in the new data. And if you were watching the names, they just in a blink, everything was replaced. And now you can
yeah,
see the first and last in the emails.
yeah, Adrian Brody's got an Oscar. I didn't know that.
I think he's got
Anyways,
two. Yeah.
oh, wow. So that's the first step. I wanted to anonymize the data for you folks and, for the protection of who answered our survey. But now I'm going to do another bigger job on this. And this is where it gets really powerful. This is smoking hot. I'm going to ask it to format this data, keep the font sizes, create bolded headings and shadings, formats to be blues and reds. I'm only doing that to show off. Add a left column numbering every line item. Add a new tab graphing data that makes sense to graph, and another tab with analytics. So let's just copy this prompt. You got to go back the other way. Microsoft do crazy things now. Where is it? Copy that. Let me go back to the spreadsheet. Again, I am I am inside of my Excel spreadsheet. I've pasted that prompt into the dialog box. I say go. Now, I don't know, Darren, like if I asked you to do that to the data, okay, you're a sales guy, and you had to organize the data, graph the various elements of it. Well, let me slide this up so folks can see what it's actually doing. It tells you in the you can see the little circle showing us that it's computing, and tells you as it goes what it's going to be doing. And by the way, you can get a complete report of that every step of the way. So you can confirm the steps and make sure that it's doing it the right way for you. But Darren, if I asked you to do this task, how much time would you allocate?
Zero. That's a trick question. I wouldn't do this task.
Yes, you.
But if I had to format this kind of data, I mean, it's a mess. Like some things just aren't built for Excel, or you need to be smart about how you record the information. But what you're going to see here in the final product is kind of like that parable of with that old genie story. You know, you make these wishes and then they find a way to screw the wishes up because you weren't specific enough, and then it ends up being something different. You don't have to worry about that here. You know, the prompt was more cosmetic that Larry was describing. It wasn't that detailed. It left a little bit open for interpretation, and you're going to see some of what it interprets here. And it's whether it was a percentage to 100 on target, you just keep refining. Next prompt, next, off that base document. So this first push to transform it all, you didn't specify anything about how or what, or this is more important than this information. You kind of just gave it formatting because this is hard, with the X's and the things really hard to read. So, like, this is at least half a day, if you know what you're looking at. First is understanding what it's saying. And then now that I know what is the message in the information, how what is the best way to format the data to convey that message? I mean, I'm not an Excel person at all, but this looks like a half a day, two maybe, depending on the sheer volume of it.
Well, we're going to look at the output in a minute when it's ready. And I think folks here will be able to decide themselves um, how long it would take to do this. Um,
Hmm.
the goal of AI is to put PhD capability on any subject in the hands of any person. And, you can be a company of two now, and with Copilot, build data analytics on all the data that you have. You could go in and just ask it, what's my ideal customer profile? Tell me who I do best with. Who do I close the fastest? They can tell just by the number of emails that went back and forth and over what time. What does that customer look like? Who buys the most product from me? What's their age range? Where do I do the best? And what would it have taken just a few years ago to acquire that data on your business?
Oh, there.
Possibly, possibly, you just wouldn't be able to afford to do it. So as you can see, Copilot is reformatting and working on the data. Um, uh,
We have a question here that I do want to throw in
Go ahead. Yeah.
because it kind of relates to this. William has asked, I have multiple lines of business with unique emails. Would I be able to connect my second and third email accounts, calendars to a primary business account that has Copilot inside of it? So in the Microsoft space, when you buy a business premium license or an enterprise 3 license, all of those tools and the data sit inside of what's called a tenant. A tenant is like a condo unit in a condo building. You get your own unit, your own tenant. Your SharePoint, your Teams, Exchange, your email, your bookings, your calendar, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, they all sit in that same tenant. Data that you start to collect in there also sits inside that same tenant. We've used this analogy before. I think I used it last time. Copilot is like a virus that you unleash inside that tenant, and it gets into every crack
Well,
and
that's not
crevice.
a good word.
I know, but I think it's very visually powerful. So it gets into everything positively. It's not meant to be malicious. It gets into everything and exposes for your benefit everything inside that environment. You can't hide anything from it, which is why it's so critical the governance and security part is done right the first time. So, with regards to what can it see, what can it affect, it's everything inside that tenant. Your multiple emails, if you have SharePoint, different sites, different pockets of business data, as long as you're inside that tenant and then you deploy Copilot inside of that space, all of it is relative. All of it will work together.
Yeah. Okay, we're done,
Are we
Darren.
done? Oh,
Yeah.
pretty good.
So that was
Better than yesterday.
um let me see here. So I can ask it to remove these colors. These are its uh watch this. Can you remove your color?
And you don't have to worry too much about typos either for those of you who can't type very well.
Oh,
It'll figure out what you're
I
saying.
heard that. I heard that. So that those are gone now. Okay, so we have that raw data. Okay, we have a little cover page. We got a dashboard, we got analytics, and then we got the responses. In our dashboard, it's gathered all that data and it's telling me we got 82 responses. Security confidence by the 82 respondents to our survey is 9.1 out of 10. Gosh, we'll have to pat the chief architect on the back of our security for that, won't we, Darren?
Oh, I thought that was going to be a failing mark. It should be like 9.8.
Oh, stop it. You know how hard it is to get that on a survey? Recommendation, basically 91% of the respondents would recommend our product, and we have a net promoter score of 71%. What matters to them today? Security confidence. You know, but look at this data. Look what I just did
Yeah,
with a
see,
bunch of raw data.
yeah,
It's just,
now I can see the message with those X's, where those X's were. This is starting to make more sense. You can build off of this. You can refine off of this.
yeah. And we didn't have the staff like I did. I was fortunate. My companies have been, reasonably successful. But in many companies where you've got 5, 10 people, you don't have the staff to do this kind of work. Now you do, just by integrating Copilot. I love, by the way, this little sidebar. Um, if we'd have surveyed our client set from just before the pandemic, security confidence was not their biggest interest in the benefit that we deliver. It was about operating their business. It was about getting good support. It was about fewer IT issues. But because of COVID and AI, security confidence we've noticed across the pieces has really, really escalated. But I'm digressing. So here we go. We've got uh, on this tab, we got more analytics. We did not just the graphing of the data, but the percentages of the data and responses here are all now organized on pivot tables, used a little scanline format to make it easier. Little bit of an error here on this one. I'd like to have seen more red. I said blues and reds. I don't see it, but that's okay.
But you can prompt that in.
I can prompt that back in. Yes,
If you
absolutely.
cared. Yeah.
So again, don't miss the point, please. I I'd like to think I could do this in a day or two. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work collecting and collating that data and determining your percentages. And yeah, there were in Excel, there were analytic tool analyzers and things like that. I quite frankly never completely figured them out myself. And I'm nobody's fool when it comes to computing. So there you go. A brilliant example of what Copilot can do for you with all that raw data you get. By the way, it could be a Word document. It could be emails that you get. It could be anything inside of your Microsoft environment.
Yep. Do you think we have time for the Outlook example?
Oh, I think we do.
Okay.
You want to show it off?
Yeah.
Okay, just here.
So I work heavily, heavily, heavily in Outlook. And my emails are highly organized, folders, dates, times, my to-do list of emails, and then when I'm done, it goes away. Aside from the obvious, inserting Copilot into a chain and saying, what's the messaging here? I have to catch up on what, you can do a lot to summarize, to draft emails. But one of the things I do is look around a lot. It's like a little library of emails. I've got folders based on people, based on departments. for this webinar, I've got a folder called webinars with all our webinar activity. And once I've archived something to those folders, if I want to go and refresh on like, when did we do this? Or I have a question that I need answered, and I know the answer is somewhere in my email, that's more powerful for me. That's the kind of stuff, aside from sending and receiving emails, that's a lot of what I do in Outlook. So the examples I have here, I'm just going to hijack the screen from you for a second. So,
I'm going to stop my share, Darren.
okay, sure. I'll wait for you to do that. So I got this email and it's a reminder, and I don't recall. I'm in the middle of something. This thing pops up and I'm worried there's a time on it. I don't recall being invited either to be a panelist or participate in this email. So in Outlook, we're up here, top right corner. We hit our Copilot button. There are some shortcuts if you hit the down arrow. Same format. It opens up my sidebar. I get my prompt screen. I'm just going to paste in my question from the deck. I don't recall being invited to this webinar. Is there anything in my inbox related to this? This is something I would have had to go and do. Scroll through, go to my webinar email or my folder, figure out if I was invited. I enter, same thing. It's going to show you what it's doing while it's doing it. You could interrupt it and re-ask the question or whatnot. And these are really quick because we're just looking at our local email data. I'm not scouring all of our environment. And what I found, there are at least 2 reminder emails related to the webinar. And then they list them out here. Calendar evidence. Now, if I click on one of these, it'll just open up that email right on the screen. So I can go through to all that. So great. That was a few seconds, and I don't have to go rummaging through. Now, my next question to our marketing manager, Heba, is I'm busy at this time. If it was less important, I wouldn't know if I needed to be there or not. So I'm going to prompt this. Write an email to Heba, find out if I need to be there. I'm very flippant with my emails. I just want to get a quick question off to somebody and get my answer back. Um, so there's my response. Direct and concise, more conversational. Again, I wasn't specific, so I've got some options to pick from. I can just forward this. I can put Heba's name in my prompt. I can just copy and paste this and then send. And this is not a huge thing, but that rummaging, going through, being organized in my email, that takes minutes. It could take 10, 15 minutes. I might not get to it. Here, I'm in and out in probably 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, one more thing I
Beautiful.
was going to show.
That's
Um,
okay. Darren,
yeah.
I want to show the agentic AI, and we've
Oh,
only
yeah.
got
Okay.
10 minutes. I'd
Okay.
forgotten about it too, but this is an important part. By the way, to automate what you just saw, even to
Yes.
the point of sending the email on just yeah, the email looks good, send it, can be done in agentic AI, which is part of Copilot. And I'm going to show you that now.
Yes, that's true. I was just going to have it go through my email and calendar and show me any webinars that I've been in this year. And it'll just bring up a list and say, you've been in 4 webinars this year. You've done this, 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 and this, and I can decide easily. So again, I'm cutting out the rummaging and just getting this thing to tell me what to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you
Um,
turn off your share. I'll turn mine on, and we're quickly going to go through it.
yes.
This was not the focus of our presentation.
While you get that set up here, we've got 2 different operating modes for Copilot. One is what we just kind of showed. It's an agent in, or rather, it's the Copilot app inside of those individual Microsoft programs. It is grounded in company data. It can look at data across, but your work is inside of that window. An agent, a whole other thing, is now multiple of these chatbots in different areas of the business. And when you're thinking about the marketing you've seen recently with AI and all the cool and fancy things it can do, it's probably talking about an agent which sits in multiple areas and summarizes or produces a project to you right on one screen versus what that was, which is working with Copilot on the individual application.
As Darren well explained what agents are, these are just a few examples of what you can build in agents literally in an afternoon. A policy and compliance desk, an HR and benefits helper for your staff, just all kinds of great methodologies and applications for building these agents. Um, where you can create them, wherever you enter Copilot Chat on a SharePoint site or in Microsoft Teams. Copilot Chat is the application that comes with the paid version that's on your toolbar. And certainly the free version will also create some level of agents. But again, the way this is tiered, the more sophisticated you go, the more capability you get. And you need to figure that out, or you need to have somebody like us help you figure that out. We're getting questions like, well, what level of Copilot do I get with my NPC? Well, different clients have different levels of Microsoft Office, so they're getting different levels. We'll have to answer those questions more individually. But you can create an agent, it all goes to the same place at the end of the day. Um, what I'm going to do is just open Copilot and choose create an agent, and I'm going to, ask it uh, to build a little calendar thing for me. Okay. And these are all the steps that are required. Basically, just open Copilot, tell it what you want to do. This is for repetitive tasks, things you want to do over and over again. So let me grab this prompt here. Got to step back out of, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to run up the Copilot desktop, which is where I just happen to want to run this agent build from. So this is the Copilot desktop
Desktop
and
app
the
that you
desktop
downloaded.
app, right? I'm
Yeah.
going to click new agent and I'm in the agent builder. The prompt I'm typing in simply says, oh, that's just, it picked up a graphic from my copy. Create an agent from within Outlook that surveys my calendar every morning at 8 a.m., lists my events and meetings for the day, highlight any that are priority, highlight any outstanding tasks. So it's going to go in and do that. Okay. Um, and what it's doing right now is going through the process as though I just asked it to do it the way we were working a few minutes ago in conversation with it. But the bonus is I can click a button and turn it into my own little mini app. If you see on the side here, whoops, it's already done. So um, let me just expand that window again. I want to show you something. These are little, you know, in this version, this is not my production computer, but in this version, I was testing a few. Now, give me a summary of all my chats about our end of lease devices. Uh, Create a morning briefing for me. Here's a daily Outlook briefing. So here's it, it's telling me all of what it's going to do. And then I can just simply hit preview. And it's gone a little farther than I asked for. In this app it's building for me, I can select today's briefing, priority meetings, outstanding tasks, prep my day. Remember, I mentioned earlier, it sometimes does more than you ask. So if I had to put a limiter on that, say, just give me that, it would have. But I click on today's briefing, and this is a test process. Okay. This is, um, uh, you know, again, all my information is not on this computer. Some of it is, so I don't know what it'll pull up here. But this is a test process just to see that my little mini application, my agent, is actually going to work. And imagine writing a sophisticated one of these by just talking to the computer. You don't like the microphone is there, or you can type it in, and it will create a sophisticated application, test it, seal it for you, and make it distributable, which is just absolutely amazing. Okay.
Now, for those of you that are familiar with OpenAI and say ChatGPT, you'll recognize this interface because they're owned by the same company. So you've got your history, you've got a section here for agents, whereas in chat, that's projects. You've got the chat bar, you've got your prompt here in the middle. So very, very similar layout. And it's where it funnels all of your previous history. So when you're working in Word and then you come to the app, you're going to see a lot of the stuff in the same place. So this thing is following you around wherever you go, which makes it a bit more of a seamless, environment.
Yeah. So it did my daily briefing report. There's a lot of stuff in there because my days are busy. Now I like it. My app worked, and I'm going to hit create. So now it's creating my application. My agent's been built successfully. Um, I just go back here, and now I've got a new agent that is my daily Outlook briefing. I can click on it, and I could automate it so that it's delivered in email to me every morning at 7 a.m. It's placed on a file on my desktop. It's sent to my executive administrator. It's sent to my vice presidents and team leaders, whoever I want to see my daily outlook. Um, I can ask it to include the weather for any city that I happen to be going to that day for my work activities. So really, really powerful. And I wanted to at least get you into the idea of Copilot agents. Darren?
So just as we wrap up here, one more quick reminder. Yes, there will be a recording made. It takes about a day or two, and then it'll be distributed to everyone, so everyone will have access to this. And don't forget to fill your surveys before you exit, 'cause I know we're going to hit time here. Again, that time went by really quickly. I can't believe how fast that went. But
Yeah,
um, Copilot, you can see the power that it has, and this is a simple demo with simple tasks, right? When you start to sit down and think about, let me lay out the tasks that we already do as a business, things that we do daily, weekly, monthly. We have these jobs that need done right now, and I know what's included. I know what people are doing. I know the steps. If I deploy an agent, or if even I can just get away with using Outlook or Word in those apps, what can we save? What can we produce? It can prompt, it can save a lot of time. Once you've got that laid out, it'll give you opportunities to do things that you can't or won't have done before. And now we've got new process built in. So having that synergy with Copilot built into this environment is incredibly synergistic and gets you to the bottom line really quick. And I do want to wrap this up real fast with just one thing that Wayne has asked here. At the end of the day, is Copilot safe to use and will my information still be secure? That all goes back to that first slide. It absolutely can be done in a way that is very safe to use as we are here. And without sort of any sort of guidance, it cannot be safe. So that part is
yeah,
critical that you get that kind of layout at the very, very beginning.
yeah. And it's just critical to know that getting the proper help, obviously a pitch, but we're not the only company on the block that does this. We just hope that you see the value in adopting this. And by the way, when you're exiting and you get the opportunity to comment on this presentation, if you want to see a whole presentation on just building agents, a whole presentation on better prompting, a whole presentation on, you know, how do I get into Copilot in a way that I can train my staff? I can be a train the trainer. Let me know that, and we'll build a presentation around it. Darren, wrap this up.
I'm going to get Copilot to take all your questions, your emails from the attendance chart. We're going to put them all in one area that I can look at. We're going to get the answers together and we're going to get back to everybody for sure. So that's one of the benefits that we can use here in a time crunch. But for anyone else that is interested, we post all of these as well. So this webinar, aside from being sent to you, this one and previous ones are on our website, npcdataguard.com/webinars. Just click on it and go. You don't have to sign up. So you can always go through this. And we're holy moly, we're at time. But that was, I think, one of them, being the first time for our demo, nothing blew up. That was great. And I'm hoping that people are left with this idea of, okay, I want to start brainstorming now. How can I use it and immediately get the benefit of it for our business? If you're not paying for Copilot separately than, say, Microsoft Business 365, then you've got more on the free side. The version of Copilot that we've shown you here across the board, whether you get it from Microsoft Retail or from us, that will be a separate line item for a Copilot for business license cost. We have customers on it that it's an added expense. If you don't know, you can always check with your account manager, but it doesn't come standard with business premium. It would be an additional license on top of that. That goes for anybody.
Yeah. But Patricia, I love your question. Got, so much data, 100,000 rows at a time. Don't worry about it. AI can handle it. Copilot can handle it. It can format that amount of data. I've tested at that level. Yes, it takes longer, but that's all tied to your setup too. How powerful is your computer? How good is your internet connection? Are you working inside of the tenant, or is the data on another drive somewhere? All those things we can help you with figuring out. So, Darren, you want to call the ball here?
Yes. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. Hit those surveys. We're going to go through them all and then formulate what our next survey will look like. Recordings will be sent to everybody, and we will get answers to these questions that can benefit everyone sent out as well. I've given the team more work here. So thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully it was of great benefit. And if you have anything specific that you want to talk about that's maybe just related to your company, your questions, you can reach out to us anytime individually and we can have a one-on-one. So thank you all again for the time today, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Take
good
care.
day.